It's time to say peace out to these bad boys. What's up everybody, I'm the Derek Frank, and today I'm going to be testing out the new Presonus Eris E7 XTs to replace my old KRK Rokit 6s. Presonus did send me these monitors at no charge, but this is not a paid sponsorship, so my opinions will be my real opinions. Before I get into the review, I do want to say I've loved my KRK Rokit 6s. They have been great monitors. They definitely have some pros and some cons. I'm going to talk about them today, but this is by no means a bashing video. But before I get too far in as well, I'm also going to say these new Presonus speakers are incredible, and for the money, I don't think you're going to find much better. The Presonus E7 XTs feature a high cut, a low cut, a mid control, and also a three-way acoustic space tuning. So for instance, I have my speakers pretty close to the wall, so I use the setting that is meant for that. If you have your stuff more in the middle of the room, you can set it for that. And then also if you're having the speakers in the corners, having that ability to easily adjust where the speakers are mounted just by a switch that's already pre-configured is really handy. Whereas my KRK Rokit 6s only featured a high and a low control. Now that did a good job, but it did eliminate a lot of options, like not having a control on the mids I think is probably the biggest con on the KRKs. Newer model KRKs have those options and just depends on what you want, but the ones I have don't have a mid, and the biggest con of them is that they're really muddy sounding. One of the big reasons for wanting to do this video in this demo was the price of the Presonus E7 XTs. They are around $480 a pair, and I will have links down in the description so that if you want to buy them or you want to check them out, you can do that, and also it helps my channel out a little bit as well. My KRK 6s originally sold for $399 a pair. Now they're no longer made, but if you want to buy a comparable pair of KRKs, you're looking around the $415 to $450 range, sometimes even a little bit more depending on what you're wanting. So the price is pretty comparable between the Presonus and the KRK. Now it's going to come down to which one sounds better. So the first thing I'm going to do is measure out the room, and I'm going to get the speaker set so that where I'm sitting at the middle part of my console, both sets of speakers are hitting me at the same space. What you first want to do is make sure you have a good spacing away from the wall if that's the setup you're doing. Mine are about 14 inches away from the wall, and I did that because I don't have a ton of space, and also if I get too far out, I really cut my room in half. Once I measured that I was far enough away from the wall and that both speakers had the same distance, I made sure to measure the cones to the center where I was sitting and making sure that they're going to hit me right about where my ears are. I then used my cell phone and the Audio Tool app to calibrate the speakers. The Audio Tool app is like $6 or $7. It's not too bad, but it's really great because it has features like an SPL meter, a spectrum analyzer, and then also you can set it to do C weighting, which is what you want to do when you calibrate your studio monitors. So the next step that I had to take was making sure that the monitors were the same volume level. I used the Mackie Big Knob to control between my two sets of monitors, and then having that wheel in order to increase or decrease my volume is super efficient. Once I got the speakers set where they needed to be and I got my cell phone set, I set it to the top microphone and I started my sound test. First test up was the white noise test. I tested this the same decibel level with both sets of speakers, and here are some of the results that we saw. So this is the Presonus. This is with the KRK. Presonus. KRK. The next test I did was the pink noise test. And again, same parameters, And here are some of the results. Now we're going to do the pink noise generator. Starting with the Presonus. Let's increase that volume to 80 dB. This is the Presonus. Now going to KRK. Back to the Presonus. And back to the KRK. The final test I did was with just a normal piece of music, just seeing how the speakers sound to my ears, but also how they look in the spectrum analyzer. Once I got the speakers set for the room, I really sat down and I started to dive in with a bunch of different mixes, a bunch of different audio files that are pre-made, and that's where I started to listen and base my opinion on which were the better set of monitors. So like I mentioned before, KRKs are known for being pretty muddy in that mid-range, and that was even more true the more I used the Presonus monitors. I set the EQs of both monitors as flat as I could so that it was a really fair comparison. But that's where it stopped, because the Presonus E7 XTs just blew the doors off of this because their high range was so crystal clear and crisp, but the low range, where I thought maybe you would lose that with having such great highs, was extra thumpy. It feels like I have a subwoofer in my studio, but I don't. The KRKs do a really nice job of the low end, but nothing like the Presonus are doing. The Presonus do have a little bit bigger box, and again, it's a speaker that's just a little bit bigger as well, but that box and having that extra air volume in there, I believe, is what gives it that extra bass. And having that ability to have that full range sound with great highs, great bass, and a really flat mid-range, and not having to have a subwoofer was a major selling point for me. Now, one reason I've used the KRK monitors very unapologetically throughout the years is because they're one of the best-selling studio monitors on the market, and they've served me really well. I knew that if I was making mixes that sounded good on those, that statistically a lot of people would be able to have the same kind of result. I do also have a set of Adams monitors at our office when I'm doing mixes for work, and they're incredible having the ribbon tweeter. And really, I would love to do an A/B session between those and the Presonus, and maybe I'll do those if you guys want to comment below and let me know that you want to hear that. But I think after more and more testing with the Presonus, they're going to come out either equal or on top, and much less in the price range. So back to the KRKs and where the Presonus do a better job. I mentioned that the highs are so much more crisp and clear, and because of that, I listened to some old mixes that I did on my KRKs that were finalized, mastered, and everything, and I realized how much I was overcorrecting the highs. I've since taken those mixes and listened to them on several different sets of studio monitors, and that is really staying true, that because of that muddiness in the mid-range and the lack of really clear highs in the KRKs, my mixes are just really punching really heavy in the high range, and because of it, it makes it brittle and it makes it really piercing to the ears. I also thought maybe it was just me. I have some significant hearing loss, especially in the upper range. Like once you get past about 10K, especially into the 16K range, I start to lose a lot of that. So I thought maybe I was just turning it up, but having the Presonus E7s, having that really great audio quality and a very focused high range, I could hear those pitches that I normally have a hard time picking out. Another thing that I really loved about the Presonus E7 monitors was the way they look. KRK monitors are great. They've got that yellow thing, they've got their own vibe, but sometimes it's a little much and it's a little in your face. The Presonus monitors have these great woven woofers that have like a really dark blue and black vibe, and they just blend in great with my desk. And that might not seem like a lot, but when you're trying to create an environment and a vibe in your studio, And like my studio there's a lot of RGB lighting, as you can see, and a lot of black. The yellow just didn't work great in here. Now, does it really matter how the monitors look? No, it doesn't. But I guess in a creative aspect, the Presonus just fit better with what I'm doing in here, and I think most people will agree, aesthetically they're much better to look at. The final biggest piece of all of this, of why the Presonus win over the KRK, and this has been true because I've had another set of KRK monitors that did the same thing, is that they're noisy. They tend to have a little bit of a buzz to them or something going on. And sometimes you think maybe it's my power, maybe it's a signal that's going through. But with A-Being these with the Presonus E7 XTs, they have no extra noise coming out, or at least none that I could pick up through my ears and then through the dB meter. You don't realize how much of that extra sound that's leaking through is really making a difference on your mixes. Once I turned the KRKs off and just left the Presonus on and didn't have any natural buzz, I found myself getting a lot less ear fatigue. And that's another complaint that I've seen with the KRKs, is that once you mix on them for a while, you get that ear fatigue. With the Presonus, I didn't have that. I mixed a session for almost 6 hours, and I felt like I could hear as well at the beginning as I did at the end. And for me, especially with that hearing loss, that's usually not the case. So, you know, giant thumbs up to the Presonus. My only gripe with the Presonus is that I didn't get a set sooner. I know that might sound cheesy. I'm a big Presonus fanboy. I use their interfaces. I've got all kinds of their gear. But I'm telling you, once you get a monitor that has such a clear range and that doesn't have like one certain set of frequencies that just don't feel right, it makes all the difference in the world. This is not a knock on KRK monitors. As a matter of fact, I'm not gonna get rid of my KRKs. I'm gonna keep them up in the setup that I did in the video, because it is really great to have two sets of monitors in your studio that you can reference the sounds from. I've loved the KRKs for a long time. I think they're great. I think as far as a consumer level studio monitor and home studio setup, they're really hard to beat. Unless you're using the Presonus Eris stuff, especially the XT line. So if it were me and I were going out and buying a set and it's either my first set or maybe even an upgraded set with a little bit bigger woofer, I would definitely go with the Presonus. If you haven't done so already with the channel, make sure you like and subscribe, give that thumbs up, leave a comment. It helps out the channel a lot. And the other thing that helps out is if you use my affiliate links below. They you know, give me a little bit of extra cash to make it worth doing these videos. These videos are a lot of work and it's a labor of love, and I love doing them. But mostly I love doing them to see the reactions and to get the feedback from everybody out there that's watching them. So if you have any questions or comments about either sets of these monitors or the Presonus line of XT monitors or any of the KRK Rokits, make sure to let me know. I'll definitely get back to you. Thank you guys so much. Have a good one. We'll see you next time.